106 different jumps, 3 minutes of perfect lighting each day to get it right, and go. Oh yeah, and this is actually 55-year-old Tom Cruise, and he really did just jump out of that plane. And by really did, I mean no stuntman, no green screen, that's a plane, he was in it. This scene, known as the Halo jump, is one of the most visually impressive moments in Mission Impossible Fallout. It is also in every single way some of the best action filmmaking you will ever see. And it's not even the best stunt in the franchise. It only works, however, because Tom Cruise is back insane. Mission Impossible is a series built on the impossible, but its secret isn't always obvious. These movies make the impossible kind of real. This is the Burj Khalifa. It is one of the tallest man-made structures in the world. Tom Cruise originally wanted to be on the side of the building doing this stunt himself, but unfortunately, he got some pushback on this before filming. So, this is Tom Cruise on the side of the Burj Khalifa, one of the tallest man-made structures in the world, doing this stunt himself. That's essentially how making a Mission Impossible movie goes. Crazy idea is formulated, Tom says, I want to do it. The studio, and likely the rest of the people around him with brains, say no, and so Tom does it anyway. Take Rogue Nation. This, in a lesser movie, or even really a good movie, would usually be done in some way digitally. Tom, or the plane, and or the background would be digital. He'd be on the ground with fans blowing his hairline across the studio lot. There's too much risk here. Breathing in the exhaust, taking in enough oxygen, being knocked unconscious by the force, being hit by a bird or debris. And so again, this is really Tom on the side of an airplane, accomplished by rigging a special camera to the side of the plane and having a helicopter fly alongside for wide shots and digitally editing out that camera. This took a multitude of tries, and they were grueling. The plane had to do a full 11-minute lap in the air each and every attempt. But there Tom was, wired to the plane and forced to wear protective contacts. Here, you had a bigger problem. Most underwater sequences in movies like this are shot with 10 to 15 second takes to protect the actors. But Tom wanted to accomplish one long, more immersive take. So he, as he put it, overtrained. And by that I mean Tom Cruise learned how to hold his breath for 6.5 minutes at a time for this sequence. 6.5 minutes, and then shot an actual 4-minute consecutive take holding his breath underwater multiple times. And it pays off. But it's how some of this stuff is visually articulated to us that makes any of it meaningful at all.
And then the first take, we're going down the runway, and it was everything to keep my feet onto the steps because I was almost slapped against the fuselage going down the runway. We were going so fast. And, oh my God. It was a little intense.
What's just as interesting about Mission Impossible and its stunts is just how intuitive and ingenious the way they're often shot is. How do you film Tom Cruise jumping thousands of feet out of the sky and free-falling down to Earth? Or at least, how do you do it better than most other movies you've seen this in? You do it for real. This is how. There are 2 cameramen at work in this sequence. Let's start with cameraman 1. Cameraman 1 is wearing this rig. It's very heavy, by the way. That camera has a 24mm lens, and it is going to follow Tom throughout the entire scene, as you can see here in this behind-the-scenes sequence cut together on a great Reddit thread. When Tom jumps, well, he, the cameraman, is running backwards, jumping out of that plane backwards with him. And from here, well, it's actually harder than it looks. He can't actually see what he's capturing. He does have a piece of glass over his eye that kind of acts as an indicator of sorts, but he's basically flying blind. So before shooting, they built one of the world's most powerful indoor skydiving rigs and trained the distance and angle he needed to be from Tom to memory. That's right, this cameraman, while falling out of a plane, is shooting this from spatial memory. Oh, and he's also, all the meanwhile, focus pulling the camera from memory as well, all the way down. Angle, the focus, the distance, all has to be right. 106 jumps, tests and shot, multiple days, months of prep, and it came down to 2 people knowing exactly where to be and where to look while falling 1,000 feet with 1 chance to get it right on each day of shooting, all from memory. The second camera, this guy likely existed for 2 reasons, and there's less on this than the first. One, as a precaution, but 2, to be able to capture the spatial distance and shot angles from afar, so as to be able to more accurately correct mistakes for the subsequent attempts. All of this requires insane skill, prep, dedication to your craft, and importantly, the ability and talent to think about filmmaking in a way that isn't necessarily traditional, to find new ways to do things. Again, all of this could have been accomplished digitally, probably in a significantly easier fashion. It's hard to figure out how to make something like this work. The rigs, the cameras, the lenses, this is what creativity in action filmmaking looks like. And the results? See, none of this aforementioned stuff really matters if it doesn't serve the film, or better yet, if it becomes the movie, in the sense that it's the only reason to sit through its 2.5 hours of runtime. It isn't. The Mission Impossible movies represent some of the best action movies being made today, and this is what makes it possible. Moments like these. This moment is the opening sequence of Rogue Nation. We start in medias res, in the middle of a mission we don't have context for, and just a few minutes in, before the title screen is even hit, Ethan Hunt is hanging off of an airplane, and we feel it. Through one long shot of the takeoff, we see this isn't green screen. We feel the force of the wind blowing Tom's face like putty, his body lifting off the side of the plane at the most perfect, realistic time, because, well, it is real. And that's how the movie starts. This high adrenaline, almost terrifyingly real moment lets you know just what kind of high you're in for. It's a moment that makes you ask, my god, how can they top this? It sets its bar right away with intent. It's a glorious action film opening. Or take the Burj Khalifa. This moment on a green screen done digitally, you'd probably notice the artificiality. It wouldn't make it bad, it just wouldn't look like this. But that is really Tom, and because of that, the movie's able to get most of the physics just right. It parlays a sense of realism, which grounds you, the viewer, in the moment. You recognize that this is how bodies move, and in turn, you recognize and understand the danger of that human being in that situation. By doing this Burj Khalifa sequence as practically as possible, director Brad Bird is able to articulate the stakes much more easily to his audience, and in turn, this moment becomes less of a seen this before climbing a building moment, and instead becomes a heart-pounding moment that drives a genuine sense of awe. The less a filmmaker has to trick his or her audience, the more they can do with less. Action movies by design are often predicated on suspension of disbelief. What Mission Impossible does is give you more to believe in. Look, you don't have to be the guy hanging off of a plane to make a movie work, to make action matter, but sometimes doing what others can't or simply won't can change how those moments are seen by people like us, me and you. The people buying the movie tickets, the people sitting down to watch the 112th action movie we've seen over the past decade. There's a lot that goes into making a Mission Impossible work, but it's fair to say it just couldn't work quite as well without this guy. I know it's easy as a big budget filmmaker, as a highly paid actor, to acquiesce, to accept the fate of the CGI revolution, but maybe, just maybe, there's some life left in real life after all.
Which one did you break your leg on? Do you remember?
It's the easy one where I'm running and I jump from one building to the next.
Yeah, so easy.
Or maybe, just maybe, Tom Cruise is batshit insane. Well guys, that is it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button as well, that way you don't miss anything I put out on this channel. Also, next to the subscribe button, as I always say, is a little bell, just a notification bell. Hitting it just make sure you're actually notified when I upload, which is super helpful to me and will make sure you don't miss anything. And now, really quickly, today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. They've been an amazing partner for me. I'm actually building something for you guys with Squarespace. I'm super excited about it. You'll see it soon. If you head to squarespace.com, you can start a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/nerdstalgic to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Squarespace has been great. You get content ownership. You can see how your traffic actually pans out, your visits, unique visitors, page views. You can do email campaigns, simultaneous posting across all of your platforms, platforms. They're an incredible company doing some really great stuff when it comes to allowing smaller creators to create their own platform. So again, down in the description below, you can follow that link to start your free trial and head to squarespace.com/nerdstalgic to get 10% off that first purchase. And hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.